He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
No mai whakarongo mai ki te aotai whenua. Welcome to Country Life. Ko Janina Rūnaka-owned.
G'day, great to have your company. I'm Duncan Smith. Today, we get up close and personal with a herd of water buffalo near Auckland.
I check in with an organic dairy farmer in Taranaki to see how she's fared in the drought and learn more about some botanicals she's growing.
And Cosmo visits a Rūnaka-owned and operated native plant nursery in Murihiku, Southland.
But first, let's take a look at what's been making headlines on the Rural News Desk this week. And New Zealand wool producers are celebrating the government's efforts to make wool great again. From July 1st, government agencies will be directed to use woolen fibres products in the construction and refurbishment of government buildings, where practical and appropriate. Andy Coy, Chief Executive of industry group Wool Impact, says it's a significant development for the industry. He says it will help drive demand and value for wool, improving the profitability of sheep farming.
Oh, look, I think this is a government taking a leadership role, that they're demonstrating that wool can be a viable fibre option in commercial offices and in residential homes. Recognising that wool can go into a range of different products, what we're trying to do, what we're endeavouring to do is create new demand. New demand will put the pressures on the availability of fibre, and that's going to generate higher returns to our growers.
And more good news. New Zealand's largest working farm, Molesworth Station, has declared its cattle free of bovine tuberculosis, or TB, for the first time in 37 years. Operated by state farmer Pāmu, formerly Landcorp, Molesworth Station spans over 180,000 hectares of South Island high country. It's had the longest infection status, having been considered continuously infected since 1972. Here's Pāmu Chief Executive Mark Leslie.
It's a great recognition to a lot of hard work. I think acknowledgement to Jim and his Molesworth team, to Osprey, to the Manaaki whenua. That's a lot of hard work that gets to this outcome. And it's great to be able to say, hey, that farm's after 40 plus odd years has got to its TB-free status, which is important, as we've talked about, from an animal health perspective. But equally, there is requirements from an export perspective, for market access around it as well.
Staying on pest control, hunters say a law change will improve access to New Zealand's backcountry. The government has announced it will reform the Health and Safety at Work Act, clarifying who is responsible if someone is injured on private land. New Zealand Deerstalkers Association Chief Executive Gwyn Thurlow says those running outdoor activities, and not the landowners, will now be held responsible for accidents.
Certainly organisations and clubs like NZDA, we really welcome this. We're really hampered. We like to do recreational trips and club trips and training, shooting, hunting, and we also organise it through our 50 club network. We do hunter training, and sometimes that's on private land or public land, and of course that's all recreational hunting. And so we're really excited that this law will clarify that the people that we go on their land to are not liable for what we do.
Meanwhile, new research looking at how wildlife might contribute to the spread of wild kiwi fruit suggests birds are the primary culprit. Surveillance and control of wild kiwi fruit to prevent the spread of pests and disease to orchards costs the industry about $600,000 each year. The research was undertaken by Kiwi Fruit Vine Health, KVH, Lincoln University and Agriculture Risk Management with support from Zespri Innovation. It looked at which animals were visiting orchards to feed on kiwi fruit and potentially spread seeds into the wild. Andrew McConnell, who runs operations for the Wild Kiwi Fruit Management Program, says trail cameras, audio trackers and other surveillance tools were set up on 4 Te Puke orchards growing both green and gold varieties.
They're all coming in and eating on that fruit. It's hard to blame them, really. They come in winter when other food sources are scarce and it's a nice fruit. They come in and enjoy it. We did find through our research that the main culprits are birds. Over or around 90% of our detections of animals coming into orchards and feeding on fruit were birds. What we didn't find in our cameras, which is easy to tell you, is we didn't see pigs or wallabies, but they're probably there, to be honest. We probably just didn't see them.
Turning to forestry, and a new report is raising the alarm about our reliance on planting pines to offset greenhouse gas emissions. The Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment's Alt-F Reset, examining the Drivers of Forestry in New Zealand report, makes 15 recommendations to address the risks that New Zealand's current approach to forestry runs. Commissioner Simon Upton says new permanent forests, mostly made up of radiata pine, being planted as carbon offsets through the Emissions Trading Scheme, or ETS, carry long-term risks for future generations.
I haven't got any problem with Pinus radiata as a production species. It's a really good one. It grows brilliantly. It supports a very important industry. But if you just use it to soak up carbon and cover the landscape with it, you import a whole lot of problems that will live with New Zealanders for generations. I think that if you're going to plant different forests, then you're in there for the long, long term, and they need to be managed for the long, long term. And the carbon market is not the way to do that.
He's calling for changes to the ETS, including phasing out forestry and improving the knowledge base that is needed to underpin greater use of native and alternative exotic species. Mr Upton says his concern is not with forests planted for timber production. And lastly, how would you feel about crayfish sausages, Duncan?
Oh, I like the sound of them. When's lunch?
Well, unfortunately, this one's not for chucking on the barbie.
Oh.
The sea sausage, as it's called, is made entirely of crayfish waste products supplied by the Fjord Lobster Company. New Plymouth fishermen Keith Mawson and Rob Ansley have hooked up with Massey University student Jerome Chuia to invent a new type of bait used to attract rig, also known as lemonfish or spotted dogfish. They're the ones popular as fish in fish and chips. After switching from trawling to longline fishing to ensure the safety of endangered Maui dolphin in the area, the fishermen needed a new bait. Keith Mawson says they started with using cray legs, which are a favourite of rig.
The trials that we've done thus far, the sausage baits that we're producing from the cray mince is out fishing the cray legs, and we thought they were pretty effective, but the actual sausages are performing better than the actual cray legs.
Keith Mawson says it took about 8 months to perfect the sea sausage and make it suitable for putting on a hook, the exact recipe for which is staying a secret for now. And that's the Rural News for this week.
This is Country Life on RNZ National 101 FM.
Now we're heading to a busy, eco-sourced plant nursery on the outskirts of Invercargill, Waihopai. Cosmo Kentish Barnes is there with Paul Whakahaere, or manager, Phil Moiki.
We are a native nursery, wholesale nursery. We're owned by the 4 Rūnanga down in Murihuku, or Southland, which is Hokanui, Gore, Awarua, which is Bluff, Oraka-Parima, Riverton and Colic Bay, and Waihopai and Invercargill. So owned by the 4 of them. We have four board members and a chairman, and they are our strategists and set the strategy each year, which goes to our CEO and COO, and then they give us tasks for the year, KPIs that are set, and then here you go, this is what you need to do, and we'll see you in a year's time. I wish it was like that, but it's not really. They're on my back all the time. Yeah, just making sure the job's getting done.
What is the nursery called?
Te kohanga o tāne, which is obviously kohanga is for kids, and this is the nestling place for tāne's kids, which is the native trees. And the name of the business is Te Tapu o Tāne, which is the sacredness of Tāne, which names were given when we first started in 2022. Yeah.
And under the Te Tapu o Tāne umbrella, there are other projects going on too.
Yep, definitely. So everything is grown in Invercargill here, but we have a lot of projects going up in Queenstown. Obviously the big one up there at the moment is Coronet Faces, so 750,000 native species going back into the whenua.
So that's a long-term project.
Long-term project, 5 years, yep. And we're working with Ngāi Farms, Ngāi Forestry, and they approached us to grow them some kānuka, and those will be going into the ground in April. So 75,000 kānuka back into the whenua. And working with Ngāi been great, just to have their support.
Yeah. And so this is quite a big nursery.
Yep, 5 hectares. We've got 5 tunnel houses, and they're about 80 metres square. We actually built another one. That one there is 800 metres square, so it's quite a biggie. I can hold 500,000 seedlings in there if I needed to. And then a shade house, 1,800 metres square, anywhere from 150,000 to 250,000 plants in there. So I've got a bit of space. I haven't filled it up yet, but I am getting there. So at the moment we've grown about 820,000 native species, and of that, 500,000 have probably gone back into the whenua. And now just actually going out to sites and having a look at what we've done and what's planted, and just seeing them grow even bigger. It's quite a proud moment to know that my mokopuna will see something that I've done, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. Yeah.
And I guess the land that the plants are going into had been cleared, and now you're putting back what was there before.
Yeah, and that's probably quite proud moments that we can actually put native back in the ground, and having people on board who actually want to do that and excited about it, and having partners that bring us in to replant their whenua is all proud moments. Yeah, it's a privilege to be able to do that. Yeah.
How did you get involved with the nursery? What's your background, Phil?
My background is 20 years security up in Auckland. I worked 15 years up there, so I worked at two big venues, which were Eden Park and Spark Arena, which most people know. So I did all the big games up there, and I did All Black security for 10 years. So the game day, I travelled with them. I spent 24 hours just making sure everything was fine with the All Blacks, and made some good friends and had a lot of fun doing that as well.
What a job.
Oh, it was awesome. And if you can't be an All Black, it's probably the closest thing you can get to do, and just seeing how they're building up each day and having them at peak performance by 7:35 p.m. on a Saturday night is an awesome thing to watch during the week, and just how they work mentally. It really got me focused on process.
Yeah, I guess in terms of culture, those skills are valuable for your staff.
Yeah, definitely is. So a good example was our dispatch was probably our weakest area, and once we got our process right, we're actually just one of our strengths now, being able to get plants into dispatch and get them out the door as quickly as possible, and keeping our clients happy. It's quite a proud moment as well. Yeah.
So was this coming home for you?
Definitely, yep. So I was born and raised in Invercargill, lived here for 20 odd years, and so I was gone for 25 years out of Invercargill. Moved back here 3 years ago and thought I'd never move back, had enough of the place, but when I got back here I just realised how much I missed it. And Mum and Dad are still alive, so it's great to be able to catch up with them weekly and say hello. So that was probably my biggest drive to come back. So I applied for the job and caught up with Janet, CEO, and sent me a contract, and everything went well, and so I moved home. And I can't see me leaving. I think I'm back for good. I'll probably retire here and die here, so yep, I'm here to stay.
Yeah. So you must have learnt heaps about native plants.
Yeah, lots. And the hardest part is the names, because they're all in Latin.
Yes. Now this is a commercial nursery, but do you also run it as a social enterprise?
We started that way. One thing we did realise is we didn't have enough team members and the experience to be a social enterprise, but is definitely a goal that I want to get to, and something that we're looking at.
But at the moment you're building up the business.
Building up the business, yeah. And the other part of it is when we first started, we did a 6-week course with the kura kids here, and they ended up NZQA accredited by the end of it. So there is actually some credits that they can get. So so one day we want to go back to that and start doing that again. Yeah.
I can already see thousands of plants which are ready to go into the ground.
So got in here, we've got a lot of our, we've had a bit of focus on landscaping plants. So as you can see, there's a lot of pots. We're getting them up to bigger grades. At the moment, we're looking at doing the papakainga for the kaumātuas at Murihuku Marae, and doing some landscaping there. And a lot of these plants will go into those projects. Yeah.
What's growing here?
So what I've got here is we've got some carrick sector, which is a great grass, and red tussock. Everyone loves those. Those are two big sellers. And then we think of our shrubs, Caprosma propinqua, mingi, which is a berry one. Not the best looking plant, but the berries in that on them that brings the birds in. Then we've got our pitos. You've got your kohuhu and tarata. We've got our hebes. One of the most popular ones is salicifolia, or koromiko as people say. And then we're looking at our gracillinias, great hedging plants. So we've got a lot of those going. As in trees, we've got kahikatea, tōtara, that we've been growing for a couple of years. And Cody growing down here, people say it doesn't grow, but come over here and have a look and you can see that it's growing. It takes about 3 to 5 years before I can actually chuck them in the ground.
That's a long time.
Long time to hold them here, yeah. So the longer we hold them, the more expensive they get. But looking at about $10 for one of those in 5 years' time.
That's very fairly priced.
Yep. We focused on that. We wanted to be wholesale, so not big numbers, but we'll get there one day with the big numbers. Yeah, the big trees.
You've got some bigger trees in the corner over there.
Yep, we've got Mountain Beach. So we this big planting job in Coronet Faces. Out of the 750,000 of trees, I think just over 500,000 Mountain Beach, which is going straight back into the side of the hill there. So So we're sending those up to Queenstown at some time. But those ones there they're 3 years old, maybe 4 years old.
And some of those trees are over 2 metres tall.
Yep. They're looking good, eh? Yeah.
It's like a mini forest over there.
Yeah. That's why I love coming out here and just spending some time in here and just walking around, because it does get a bit boring and stressful in the office sometimes, and when it does, it's just get outside. And my grandmother told me you can never be stressed when your hand's in the soil, and it's so true. Once we're in production and got our hands in those pots and those trays,
Good feeling.
It's such a good feeling. You can't be stressed. Yeah, and you put your music on, the crew's talking and singing and laughing and telling jokes. It's actually a good day out.
We've come into a very tidy shed, and you've got quite a flash machine in front of us. What is this?
Flash. So this is a potting machine. When we first started, we were doing everything by hand, and I think we would get out a couple of thousand plants in a pot a day. Now we're up to 3,500, 5,000 with 3 people, pots in a day if we need to. So this is one of our purchases, and definitely helped us to speed the production up and get more plants out the door.
I haven't seen one of these before. Was that custom made for you?
We bought it over in Italy. So as we get bigger, I mean, these machines will be good for 20 years. As we get bigger, we're going to be able to keep up.
So you're future-proofing the business.
Yep.
And you've even got a conveyor belt here which brings the potted plants down onto a kind of circular platform where I guess they can be boxed and put onto a trailer.
Yep. And then transported to one of the areas where we can let them grow on.
So can farmers, for example, come directly to you and purchase plants?
So we work closely with Environment Southland, and they contact the farmers to see what they want, and then they hit me up and I sell them the trees and the farmers plant them. So yeah.
Do you ever go and see what the farmers have done?
Be nice to. I'd love to go and do that, but Environment Southland are the middlemen. They do all the dealing, and that's their clients. We just sell them the trees. Yeah.
Quite nice in a way. You can just focus on growing
these
beautiful plants.
Yeah, and that's the fun part.
Do you supply plants to the city council?
Yep, so we've just started out at Sandy Point. They've cut down all the pine along the riverside there, and they're going to plant those up with native. So anything native, they'll come and see us. And one of the great things about working with Invercargill City Council, when they were set up, they had a lot of seed and stuff as well, and they weren't using them all. So being able to grab some of their seed and sow that, and they're quite good at record keeping, so we knew exactly where they're from. So we can actually go out and grab our own now. It's been a great partnership.
Now I can see someone working away down behind the tunnel house. Who's that?
Two girls down there. So they're sisters. Halen's my supervisor, and her sister helps her out. We've got 3 boys that work in the projects team, and they're on bereavement leave at the moment, so they've got some bit of time to spend with their whānau. Yeah.
Now this is the largest tunnel house.
So we are 800 metres square in here. We wanted it big to grow all our seedlings, but as you can see, we've got a lot of bigger trees and plants in here as well.
It's so nicely laid out in here.
Yes, and that's because of Halen, because she's a bit OCD, and we all are. You do get OCD in this business, but really we do. We've focused a lot on how many trays we put in a row.
Oh, these are the trays that have gone through that new machine, aren't they?
Yep, we use 2 sizes. So this one's a sort of a half-litre grade, and then we've got these other plastic trays, and they're a 0.275 litre grade, so a bit smaller, but both grades are great for planting. But we found out that people probably prefer the half-litre, so we do a lot of stuff in our 28-cell trays.
I noticed that as we were walking down a row, your hands reach out and feel the leaves on either side.
Yeah, just having a wee touch and saying hello, beautiful. I love it. I just love walking through here, and I love the smell of them.
Do you use chemical fertilisers on these plants?
Just for weeds. So we've found a chemical you can spray on the plants here, and it just kills the weeds. So that saves a lot of time. We can actually chuck it in our irrigation if we wanted to. We haven't tried that yet. And then we use it like a seaweed mix for feed. Yeah.
Have you got any big projects in the pipeline?
Yep. Can't talk about them though. Boss is working on some stuff that that could put us on another level again, so yeah.
But financially things are going well?
Yep, so after 3 years we had a few mil in the bank, which we were quite lucky, and then we picked up the Coronet Faces contract, and with other stuff that we sell and other projects, we've become a $10 million business, and it doesn't feel like we're overrun, but it does get busier, when the growing trees jumps up from 100,000 to 300,000, you've got big projects coming up. So we do have partnerships with other nurseries that help us out when we want to get those big numbers, because I've been doing it for years, and we just learn. We just keep learning until we can get there.
Exciting times.
Exciting times, yeah. Can't wait to the end of the year and see how these other contracts are going. So, yeah.
That was Phil Moike from Te Kohaka o Tāne, a Rūnaka-owned and operated native nursery in Invercargill.
Large parts of Taranaki, along with Northland, Waikato, Horizons and Marlborough Tasman, have been suffering drought conditions for the past few months. It's been an especially tough time for dairy farmers, struggling with a lack of feed while trying to keep milking. On one coastal Taranaki dairy farm, though, things were already starting to look a little green when I paid a visit. It's feeding time at a Janet Fleming's Pihama dairy farm in Taranaki. She has two non-negotiables. First, the farm is organic. And second, she only milks her cows once a day.
So we only milk once a day, but I still feed my cows like a twice a day herd. So we always feed them again in the afternoon, but just don't take them to the cow shed. And I think that's probably the not being judgmental, but some mothers that have tried once a day, they maybe only feed the cows once a day, but to get that, if you want to do the same production once a day, you need to feed them the same. Yeah, if you want the same production, you got to feed them the same. So bar this year with really serious drought, we've bottom line for us has been better once a day milking than twice a day, just with slightly reduced production, but cost savings across the board just way outweigh it. That's without even factoring in the lifestyle balance. That's just a perk of it, really. This property here is 132 hectares, 120 effective. We've got a couple of rivers here. Generally calve around 320 cows. Milking once a day. This is just finishing our 8th season, milking once a day. That's something that, take to my grave, basically, that the property will always be organic and once a day. I don't want my family to have to learn the same way we did, that most profitable and enjoyable way to farm is once a day milking. It's better profit end of the day, better animal health, and the lifestyle balance is just a real bonus at the end of it. And at the moment I'm employing 3 staff. It means that I can really manage their hours and they get lifestyle balance as well. So the plan is that outside of calving, or if we've got some major job on, that everyone's finished for the day by 3 o'clock and can spend time with their family or surfing or do whatever they like, really.
The main farm near Opunaki was converted to organics over 20 years ago out of a desire to eat better quality food and be proud of what the family was producing. This season has been one of the more challenging Janet's experienced, though she credits organic principles with having seen the farm through it.
They're calling it the worst drought in 50 years, and it's been tough on everyone. I really feel for the contract milkers, those that have had to dry off early, that obviously won't have any income until they start milking again next year. That's often the young families. I've been farming quite a long time now, and it's been tough going, but once a day milking, it's meant that we've kept the cow condition on right through, and with our support block that we've got, we had a huge amount of supplement on hand, which we're just finishing off now, but I was able to purchase some more organic supplement that's just arriving this week. Hard to watch your whole farm looking brown, and I always move the cows when I get home from work in the afternoon or at night, and there was a few days that I'd move the cows at night and the cows would be running out of the paddock before the last ones even got there, looking at me saying, you've put us in the wrong paddock, boss. But that was the best I had at the time, and there was actually nothing else to offer them. They were well fed, but they usually moving a paddock for cows means moving on to good feed, but they weren't. And 10 days ago we got 38 mils of rain. A couple of days ago we got another 12, and if we can keep getting that 10 mils a week or a really big dumping of rain, the whole aim now is to build up feed for the winter.
Being an organic farmer, I suppose you don't have some of the same tools available to other farmers in terms of growing with fertilisers and things like that. What is the secret to getting good grass growth when you can grow it?
If you had asked me that question back in 2004, 2005, when we first went organic, that was real tough to grow grass back then, because we'd been so used to that knee-jerk reaction from urea, that you put urea on and next day you have grass. Obviously we can't chuck the palm kernel in either, but now I feel like our toolbox for animal health and fertilisers is as big as a conventional farmer. There's multiple choices for fertiliser now, which I believe a lot of conventional farmers are using the same fertilisers because there's They are a lot more longer lasting, better for the soil, but it's the grass you're growing too, is to having that diversity of grass. Like you can see where we're standing here, the chicory and plantain, that their roots go down a lot deep. If you get your soil structure, let the plants grow longer, let the soil structure, you're not damaging it with the urea. The plants get the better root system and they actually get the nutrients from the soil. So that's what I mean, the recovery from the drought. We were in a major drought 2 weeks ago. Our cows are actually going into green grass, and like you just saw, some of it's starting to blow in the wind. And our whole farm because the whole property was decked, we're going to have an abundance of grass within probably 2 to 3 weeks. So we are on really good soil here because of the monga in the ocean too.
Janet has also joined Venture Taranaki's Branching Out trial, growing botanicals like calendula, licorice, ashwagandha and angelica in one of her paddocks. She walks me through the diverse mix.
Well, before my husband passed away, we started work on a succession plan, and we've got organic land here that doesn't, dairy farming will always be our business, but you can take little bits out that won't necessarily affect the milking platform. It's a limited resource land, full stop. Organic land is even a lot smaller resource at the moment because, I feel like we're 3 years ahead of others that are still thinking about it because probably, a lot further because it takes 3 years to certify land, but it takes a lot longer really to learn about it and really get down that journey so you are growing good grass. It has got us interested in what can we grow, and part of it was that, really interested in the botanicals, but also as part of a succession plan for those members of the family that didn't want to get into the dairy farming side of it, but it's just another interest, and the kids are interested in it. So,
do you feel like the organics movement has grown in terms of interest and demand for organic products in more recent years?
I don't think I've been asked about my dreadlocks of Roman sandals for about 10 years now, but that was when we first went organic, and there was a group of us that converted to organic similar time around the coast. We've talked about it several times that people just were waiting for us to fail and get back on their journey. The fact that all of us have stuck with it and wouldn't change back, I think is testament to that it is what we all feel is the way to go. But I think probably what's changed more is the public demand for organic food has changed more than, I don't know if the grower base is growing that much, but there's the perception is organics is now a niche product, whereas it was probably seen as in the past as maybe something that organic by default, or things, people that didn't use fertiliser, it was organic, but now I think it's seen as probably the most minerals and nutrients is your organic food. So I think that public perception has changed, totally done a full circle really. Yeah.
And is this your second growing season with some of these crops?
Yes, it is, yeah. This is second. So we're doing the four main ones. We're doing ashwagandha, angelica, calendula and licorice. And then we've dabbled in the garlic as well.
Should we go take a look at some of the crops?
Yeah.
So this is the calendula with the beautiful orange flowers?
Yep. That's the hard part with the calendula was that a lot of last season's calendula reseeded, and so we couldn't actually... We had calendula popping up in all the other crops as well, but it was just from reseeding from last year.
So you've tried to do like a rotation? Or?
Yes, yeah, they've all changed places this year. Yep.
Yeah. I now know what ashwagandha and Angelica look like, so I can identify those.
Good work. Angelica is thriving this year.
Yeah, it seems very happy. And also it looks like the ashwagandha's reached some good heights there as well.
Yeah. The ashwagandha's... last year, it looks way better than last year, actually. Yeah.
Have there been any challenges with pests and things like that, or with growing conditions?
They've actually done really well, considering how dry we've been. We got a bit of water onto the licorice and some of the later planted angelica and ashwagandha, but the ones that were in earlier, they've taken off, so they haven't been watered right through, really. They got through the summer. They were already quite established by the time we got dry, so... And we had water restrictions here too, so we had to be pretty careful about what we could water and what we couldn't. So, we did our best once a week to water the young ones. But, they've actually done really well considering.
No, they look, fairly pretty happy and well established and things. Not too many gaps in the rows or anything like that as well. Is there one that you seem to have a particular interest or particularly keen on pursuing further, possibly? But early to tell?
Early to tell, like the angelica seems to... like it best, but I think if we could grow the ashwagandha successfully, that's probably just from talking to health friends in the health circles, ashwagandha seems to be what they just want to get their hands on, just New Zealand grown ashwagandha. It's just nice to have that ability to try things out.
That was Janet Fleming I was speaking to on her organic pihama dairy farm in Taranaki. Things are looking even greener this week after she got 36 millimetres of rain in the last few days.
Hi, I'm Gloria Harris from Bushhaven Owl Rescue in Invercargill, and you're listening to Country Life.
We make a lot of milk in this country. 2025 should see more than 21 million metric tonnes of the white stuff produced and made into milk powder, butter, cream, infant formula and cheese. No news there. But alongside all that cow milk, there's a small but perfectly formed boutique industry using other sources of dairy, making delicious products and changing minds about where milk can come from. Justin Gregory went to a water buffalo farm near Clevedon to meet some pioneers of a misunderstood market.
Hello, beautiful. Hello, beautiful.
Now, the more observant among you will have noticed that this is not me, Justin Gregory. It's actually Carol Stiles getting friendly with a water buffalo calf. So the story you're going to hear today, it's not the first time Country Life have talked about water buffaloes. It's not even the first time I've talked about water buffaloes for Country Life. Oh, look at him.
Little boy.
Rightio. Hey, that's me, back in 2016, meeting a brand new calf and then walking amongst the fully grown adult water buffaloes in a paddock north of Auckland.
They will walk straight through a standard fence. But if there's a little bit of electric on it, they're great respecters of electric. They're a big animal that is very firmly grounded, so a little bit of electric goes a long way.
This is Phil Armstrong. We're on the farm he works with his wife, Annie Armstrong-Wills, and their family. Like Carol, he enjoys his buffaloes and he's got a keen sense of them as characters.
They like water. They will climb into a trough and bail enough water out of the trough to make a puddle on the ground beside you, and then they'll do a bit of a dance in it and then get upside down and roll around in it.
I did my first water buffalo story in 2016, and Carol Stiles told you all about her new favourite animals back in 2008.
They look very wild, don't they, with their big horns? Yeah, their horns and their scruffy coats.
Now, fair play to you if you think we're a bit obsessed with water buffaloes on this program. Now, I can't speak for Cosmo, Sally or Janina, but I kind of am. Because as farm animals go, they've got a lot of character and they're natural comedians. They're very charming.
Over there, they're washing their faces. You just see them in the trough there.
Oh, they're just cleaning before their meal. This is Richard Dorrestein, cheesemaker, water buffalo farmer. Richard and his wife Helen Dorrestein own and manage Clevedon Buffalo Company, making all things water buffalo: feta cheese, marinated cheese, whipped cream cheese, yoghurt, meat pies, although we don't talk about the meat pies too loudly around the herd, and of course bocconcini and mozzarella. I'm here to tell you another water buffalo story because despite Richard and Helen's herd, despite Phil and Annie's farm, Wairiri buffalo on the west coast of the South Island, and so on, people in New Zealand still seem to struggle to accept these animals and to eat their delicious products. I met Richard earlier in 2025 at a farm a few kilometres north of Clevedon where they keep their milking herd. And now it's my turn to get gooey over some newborn calves in the shed. And we've got 3 babies in front of us here. What are they about? How old are they? A few days old?
Well, looking at the tags, they're born last year, so they must be coming up to 2 weeks old.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
They're really, they're already a decent size, aren't they, for 2-week-old animals, but they're really quite beautiful animals, buffaloes.
They're lovely animals. They all look a bit different. They've all got their own personalities, and very, very. They love looking around what's going on. You can see these ones looking at what we're up to. Very inquisitive, I guess, and even the main herd. You can look through there; they're looking at us as well.
Yes.
What's going on?
Yes,
yeah.
I can see a few eyes.
Yeah.
And that's the herd out there.
Yep, the main milking herd's here, and so on this block there's 60 acres, and we use it's just the milking platform and the young calves, and then they go from here once they dry off over to a runoff where we've got all the dry animals and also the first time calvers, which we'll be calving in the following October, I guess. Yeah.
Shall we go and say hello?
Yeah, by all means.
Yeah. It's pretty dry this summer.
Heading that way, it was a good start, but yeah, you can certainly see in the hills it's drying off now. We're over in the background there, you can see we've put in a lot of sorghum grass.
Oh, yeah.
We get a few paradise ducks out here, unfortunately, and they've been hammering it. I just learned the other day that they're called flappers. I've got these ducks there that I've got a duck scarer down there, and that's banging away, and they're not flying because they're too young to fly, so they waddle out of the pond and eat the grass, and yeah.
Now we're about 10 metres away from the herd, the milking herd, you see?
Yeah, that's the main herd, milking herd.
Milking herd.
Yeah, they're all looking at us.
Yep, there's some heads up,
they're all very, very individuals. You can look at the size of their horns, and the larger the horns, the older the animal, obviously.
Right.
So this little one here's in front of us she'll be a first-time calver last October, and they just get bigger and bigger. And
just off to one side there's a big old curved set of horns just hanging out by
yeah,
side.
another lovely one there, and the bull's just coming around behind this one here.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, he's a little bit, bigger set. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's about 4, so they don't get much bigger than what you're seeing him and the girls with the larger horns. It's about the size they get to, but they are quite a big animal.
Oh, the herd is stirring. Here they come. So we're just on the other side of a fence, and there's again, I think, an electric coil before here, and the herd is just moving calmly towards the troughs. Hopefully one will come down here and we'll get some sound of them eating. Here they go. Oh yeah, and the smaller ones are at the back, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, they'll all come in.
Yeah.
Some of the young ones don't like coming down here because they get trapped in here and then they can't get out in a hurry.
One of the herd forgoes her feed for a moment to take a closer look at me and my microphones. Just keeps turning around and having a look at me before settling down to eat. And there you go, you're a bit happier now, aren't you? Don't think I'm going to bother you.
Yeah, and they've actually had plenty to eat out there too. I think they just come in because it's just been fed out, but they certainly wait for it.
I should just take a minute to set the scene for you here. This farm, which the couple rents, is next door to Duda Regional Park. If you look to the east, you'll see Pōnui, Chamberlain Island, and to the north, it's the southern end of Waiheke Island. It's a beautiful summer's day today here. It's hot, it's dry, and you might be surprised to find that owning buffaloes wasn't the plan when the couple moved to Clevedon. Here's Helen Dorrestein.
Well, I had a little house in Ponsonby, and my husband's from Taupo, and he's a big man, big farming man, and he was just like a bear in a cage in Ponsonby, and I got a job. I had 2 offers. I had a job offer at Papakura High and a job offer in Orewa. I took the Papakura job, and when funnily enough, we used to have a family batch at O'Reary Point when I was a kid, and I used to drive through Clevedon and think, I don't want to live here. and then...
We can edit that bit out later if you like. Yeah.
Hello, here I am, living and working in Clevedon. But I did always want to farm. Actually, one of my staff kids was asking me this morning, why I wanted to farm. And when I was a kid, my family come from Paparoa up north, and when I was a kid, Dad and Mum looked after a family farm up there for holidays, and it was the best holiday I ever had. And from that day forward, I always wanted to be a farmer. And careful what you wish for, I guess.
Helen mentioned her staff there, and she probably meant her farmers market staff, not her farming staff. And that's where I caught up with her earlier in the day at her market.
It's a weekly farmers market. We have produce from local vendors and a number of people that cook quality ready-to-eat food. The primary focus of the market is supporting local growers and food producers. Very important. We had done a little trip around the South Island in a camper van with the kids before they started school, and ate very well out of local markets and roadside stalls. Came back to home surrounded by green fields and farms and growers, and went to the local supermarket and thought, oh my goodness, I don't want to eat that. and saw glass houses falling into disrepair and decided that we needed one.
And as odd as it sounds, the farmers market was the reason why Helen and Richard wanted a herd of buffaloes in the first place.
So we wanted to make cheese primarily for the market, because getting regular cheesemakers was very, very hard, because they're like unicorns, there's not many of them. It's a very difficult business to become established. It's stacked against you. And we also thought that to make cheese it had to be a little bit different because there's a lot of cheese gets imported and is frozen and then defrosted and sent around. And whereas buffalo milk, it doesn't travel well, and the freshness is everything. So fresh buffalo milk cheeses, and buffalo milk is quite different. It's quite mellow and sweet.
Some Water Buffalo 101 for you. There are two types of domesticated water buffaloes. There's river buffaloes, or riverines, and swamp buffaloes, sometimes called swampies. While the animal originated in Southeast Asia and the Indian subcontinent, they're now found from Europe to Africa, through Asia, the Caribbean, China, Australia, and for the last 18 years or so, here in New Zealand. They're a little different to cows. Water buffalo milk is naturally A2. It has more fat and protein than dairy cows. It's got lower cholesterol levels too. And as Helen said, it's sweeter, it's whiter, and creamier than cow milk. And yep, as you've heard, buffaloes are big animals, a bit taller than cows and sturdier, broader, both boys and the girls. Their coats are longish, dark, with a bit of a reddish-brown tinge, and they do have those lovely big soulful brown eyes. Water buffaloes like water, obviously, while cows prefer a dry paddock, thank you very much. And there are other differences too, like digestion and heat management. Cows are a bit more chill overall, generally, as well. But it's the horns that really mark water buffaloes apart. They're long, curved, a little wicked looking, to be frank. There are videos out there of buffaloes dealing to lions by flipping them in the air. It's not pretty to watch. Helen and Richard imported their first herd of 60 water buffaloes just before Christmas 2007.
So the early days with the animals, we started with 5 milking out of the 60. So, you know, they didn't all come on at once. Managing them in the shed, so we had to break them into milking, and that was really hairy, very hard for the Richard and another Richard who was working with us at the time to actually break them into milking and keep them calm. Then we had to learn how to wait the herd to summer, and honestly the cheese was absolutely trucking out at one point, and then Easter came first year, and we had no contingency. We just had mozzarella and ricotta, and boom, no sales overnight. And just all of those little things with running a business, building a brand, building demand, and having people actually come and buy your stuff. And we were bleeding money.
First milking herd, yep, but not the first water buffaloes here. There had been animals brought in for embryo transfer and some for meat, but no one had tried milking them before and then selling the products. Helen had to work hard to get them accepted in supermarkets and restaurants.
Quite honestly, people didn't know what it was when I started selling it, and they'd look at you in horror. It was a case of actually getting in there and getting it taken. But there were a few chefs that did know what we were doing. Peter Gordon, Tony Astle, the guys at SPQR, they were wonderful. You know, they put us on the menu straight away. Tony bought 1 kilo a week for 2 years, and I don't even think he was getting through it. But he tried it, loved it, supported us, and I'm eternally thankful for that, because you know, it's been much harder to break into the meat side of things than the cheese.
Like everyone, COVID hit their business hard, but 18 years in, things are going okay, thank you. Back at the farm, I asked Richard if he thinks there's a better understanding now amongst Kiwis of water buffaloes than before.
Well, you'd think there would be. We've been on Country Calendar, we've been in a lot of magazines and been on Campbell Live, and I still meet people every day that have got no idea there's water buffalo in the country, and that you can actually drink their milk and eat their products from their milk. But to give you an example of it, I believe New Zealand milks about 5 million dairy cows. We're one of the biggest exporters. I'm pretty sure we are. But there's no way we're not the biggest dairy producer. So to give you an idea, what I'm saying is there's 5 million dairy cows. In Pakistan, they milk 20 million dairy cows and 30 million water buffalo. In India, there's more again. So India is the biggest milk producer in the world.
Talk me through the cycle of calving and milking. Is it continuous or?
Yeah, we milk year round, so we're constantly calving. We tend to try and manipulate it so we get more milk when we want it in summer months. So from November onwards, we want the majority of our milk. And we do that a couple of ways. We may hold the bull out from the main herd. We have done a lot of AI work in the past, but now we're running a bull continuously with the herd. And we also bring in our heifers once a year, and we time that so they're all calving around October. So getting back to the milking, we milk year round, and basically we haven't stopped milking for 18 years. So each individual animal will dry off, and if it's a heifer it'll be 6 months, and then a good animal will be 8 months, and then it all goes through the same cycle again, having a calf, and away we go.
Why do you want most of it in summer?
I beg your pardon?
Why do you want most of it in summer?
Well, majority of our milk is put into cheese for mozzarella, and that's a summer type cheese.
Right,
so,
okay.
Yeah, and we've changed a few things around, and we're now doing a marinated cheese, and which lasts, it's got a longer shelf life, but yeah, it's pretty much everyone eats the majority of their cheese and products like that in summertime. I had this brainwave to make a dark egg ice cream, and so I looked up that these Indian runner ducks are the best producing egg-laying ducks, and so I got 8 eggs from a breeder on the North Shore, and then put them under the Muscovy to raise them, and it raised them, and I got 6 boys and 2 girls, and they're the most useless animal I've ever come across. Because in 2 years I haven't had 1 egg, because they apparently drop them as they run, and they eat and shit everywhere, and that's about all I've got out of them.
What do you know now that you didn't know 20 years ago when you started?
I know it's hard to make money out of making cheese.
Yeah.
But it's the duck banger going off in the background. I think I've realised that I really, really enjoy the farm. Helen thinks that I spend too much time on the farm, but what our dream would be to have our own farm and live on the farm, so that I'm not running off to this farm and checking. It's a big job to look after the milking block and then the runoff and our own property. So so hopefully we get there, and we're certainly going in the right direction at the moment, and looking at exporting, and so everything's hopefully coming right in 2025. Yeah.
This is a great life you guys have made for yourself out here, eh?
We like it, yeah, it's lovely. It's a lovely, lovely place here with the sea and the view.
Yeah.
It can be a bit of a rain shadow here, it can trek around the Hanuas, and it can be raining halfway down North Road and not here, but with the different crops we've put in, and we've expanded a little bit. We've got a bigger runoff now. We grow our own maize. I've just grown my own lucerne this year, and we purchased the mixer wagon so we can mix all the products up and then feed out in these feed bins. So we've got a pretty good system now.
The learning curve has been steep?
They have. It's been difficult, because especially with the cheese as well, because there's been no one to really ask.
Sure.
We've done a few trips to Italy, and so it's whenever there's a problem, it lands in my lap on how to fix it basically on the farm, or the factory.
And that's your electrical engineering past, yeah.
Yeah, well that has been, it's been a great help actually, because I built everything in the factory, built my own pasteuriser, and it's just that methodical way of trying to fault find, I guess, and it's like if you do get a problem with the cheese, and you've got to go through it and work out what's going wrong. But it's sometimes the simplest cheese and the hardest cheese to make mozzarella, because you've got one shot at it on that day. You've got to get it just the right pH. But what I have learnt about milk is, I thought milk was milk, but it's that you can get the period of the lactation. The early lactation is different to the mid or end lactation. Depends on what they're eating. So there's a few variations in it.
And what's the future hold? What's next? You've got the export business going now.
Yeah, the big thing for me is, a little goal I want to do is put out a really, really good blue cheese, and that's basically another whole factory. I'm trying to do something now in some containers and get it going. We did a trip in 23 to France, because I love French blues, and so that's what I'm basing it on, and hopefully we can get that happening within the next 12 months. The thing with mozzarella is, if you get it wrong, or you want to tweak something, you can do the same thing tomorrow and you'll know your results instantly. But with a hard cheese or a blue cheese or anything else, or imagine making a Parmesan and you've got to wait 2 years and realise that you've got the salt level wrong. So so with a blue you got to, it's a lot easier if someone can show you how to do it, so it will be a bit of a learning curve, I suppose, not with our milk, and depending on if you want a creamy blue or a hard one, or how you want to push it, and see what happens.
Well, girls and boy, I will leave you to your lunch. Thanks for having us. Richard, best of luck.
Thank you so much for coming out. Yeah, hope you
Cheers.
enjoyed yourself.
Richard Dorrestein in Clevedon. You also heard from Helen Dorrestein, who owns and runs the Clevedon Buffalo Company with Richard, as well as the Clevedon Village Farmers Market. The story was produced by Justin Gregory with help from Carol Stiles and several very cooperative and charming water buffalo.
And that's this week's Country Life. Thanks for joining us. You can also find photos and more information about the stories in this episode in our show notes. We love getting your feedback and ideas for future stories. You can reach us at country@rnz.co.nz.
We'd hate for you to miss an episode of Country Life. To get every episode free to your phone, click follow on your app now. And if you enjoyed our show, give us a shout on social media or tell a friend by clicking the share button in this app.
Out in the field today were myself, Cosmo Kentish-Barnes and Justin Gregory.
The show was produced and engineered by David Knowles and Mark Chesterman. Ka kite.
Catch you next time.